From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight, and the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
Welcome into our first playoff edition of the Black and Gold Review Show. I'm Juan Kincaid alongside Deuce McAllister, former Saints Hall of Famer, and our Hall of Famer every day, Sean Bazan. Hey, this playoff field is all set. Maybe the most balanced playoff field right now. Hard to pick a winner there.
Well, I would have to say, in the NFC, yes. As far as the AFC, I hadn't studied enough to exactly know on the AFC side. But when you look at the NFC side, you know, you have to like the positioning of the Saints. But then you look at Russell Wilson and his experience. But outside of that, you know, it's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I think it's hard to find a favorite, but it's a balanced field. You got L.A., you got Chicago, you got the Saints, you got Seattle, you got Dallas, you got Philadelphia. But still, the road goes to the Dome, so I like the Saints' chances.
I agree with you right there. Let's get right into the playbook. A lot to get to tonight. Play number one, effortless end to the season. 34-13 loss to the Panthers. Sean Payton didn't want to sugarcoat things after this game. They just didn't play well at all.
And I think, you know, you have to agree with him. This team is too talented to go out and play like they did. And so, you know, you always try to look for a storyline or the motivation. What can he use? What can he find? That being Sean Payton, to kind of motivate these guys. Well, I think they gave it to him that he's going to harp on, whether it's the next 7 days, 14 days, however long it takes him to get his point across, he's going to have it.
Well, he wasn't just frustrated last night. It spilled over into his conference call this morning. He was not a happy camper, rightfully so. Defensively, especially, I know we'll get to it a little bit later, they did not play well. Overall, seemed lethargic, lacked a little bit of focus. Perfect way for him to basically kind of rip into his team a little bit, keep him a little edgy, keep him ready to roll, stay sharp, because it's about to count here in just a couple of weeks.
Made a little mistake, 33-14, but the bottom line is you're losing to a Carolina Panther team that was playing with a third and a fourth string quarterback. You didn't do much, so that gets us into play number two. Defense exposed, could not get to either one of those quarterbacks pretty much the entire afternoon. If there's a red flag in this game, that's it for me, that your defense, with most of the starters out there, didn't do their job.
I've seen too much throughout this season to let this one game, you know, be able to throw me off. I've seen this team play too well, particularly in, you know, when you talk about pass defense and against the run. They just didn't do a good job of it yesterday, and I think that's because they weren't totally locked in. You know, you had guys that normally make plays, did make those necessary plays for you.
I think you're totally right. I think it's disappointing that they didn't have the same laser-like focus that they've had all season. They didn't treat this game with the proper respect that you would hope they would to finish out the season on a high note. But let's not get it twisted here. I think the defense you saw the first 16 weeks of the season is the one we're going to see in the postseason. This was an outlier, and you could just tell. I mean, the body language wasn't the same. So while it's disappointing, and Sean Payton is certainly going to teach off of it, I don't think this is a sign of things to come.
They had a chance to get their 14th win, which this franchise has never reached. You would think that would be enough as a motivator, but at the end of the day, they know they've wrapped up the most important thing, which is home field advantage for the playoffs. So there should have been a natural drop, Sean, you think?
I think it was natural to be a little bit of a drop. You know, I think back to 09, the last game of the season was what it was. I think 06 was the same way. I think they've lost both of those games. I know they lost one in 09. I think they lost the game in 06, Deuce, you were on that team. So you would expect a natural drop a little bit, but I think this almost had a preseason feel, and it shouldn't have dropped to that. It shouldn't have dropped to a preseason feel.
No, I agree as well. I mean, I was a part of both of those, but when you go back and you look in it, it's one thing to go out there and play, but then it's another just to be a part of it. And, you know, you're watching the clock probably more than the fans are watching the clock because you just want to get over with.
No doubt. All right, play number three. Teddy Bridgewater got his opportunity, his audition. Numbers weren't great, but you put it into context a little bit. He was playing behind a banged-up offensive line. This is really his first opportunity to play with the Saints. I mean, his first start in 3 years. I mean, 14 of 22, 118 passing, touchdown, interception. Your thoughts on how he did?
Well, the numbers won't blow you away, but when you go back and you evaluate and you look at the complete picture, and that's really what the Saints want to do. They want to look at, hey, look, you know, does he understand what we're trying to do from an offensive standpoint? Was he able to get this team in and out of the huddle? Was he able to distribute the ball to the playmakers? You know, did he have command and control? Those are the things that they want to go and look at. You know, they can always improve on the numbers, but it was a good start for him, at least a starting point.
Yeah, nothing terrible. nothing I would say great. I think his football traits on the field were there. He's still got a strong arm. He's still mostly accurate. He can obviously elude the pass rush. We saw it in that clip a few plays earlier. I have a film study on Teddy Bridgewater in the next block, so I won't get too far into this, but I don't think he overly helped or hurt himself with this audition. I thought it kind of was what it was.
Since you have your film study, I'll ask Deuce this question. Did he show you what you thought he would show you?
Well, I thought the mobility, that was probably the key thing, you know, because you're talking about an individual that totally tore up his knee, and so you wanted to see him be able to move in the pocket, and obviously the arm strength you knew that he had. You know, it's just him being sharper as far as understanding and knowing where to go with the football at times.
Okay, play number 4, back in the playbook. Mike Thomas makes history, had to stay in the game until the fourth quarter to do so, passing Joe Horn's record. Over 1,400 yards receiving for Michael Thomas. Good for him, but man, it should not have taken that long because you're running the risk of this guy getting hurt.
Knock on wood, we came out okay
Absolutely,
as far as injury in that sense. But, you know, you really tip your hat to Mike Thomas for the work that he not only puts in during the game, but it's his work week of how he goes out and he competes. And for him to finish with 14.05 as far as receiving yards and breaking, you know, a record that had been a part, Joe Horn had held it since 2004. You know, and you think about some of the receivers that have come through, particularly Colston.
Yeah.
Colston, you know, never was able to do this, and Mike does it, you know, really in year 3. It's a compliment to him and, you know, obviously the offensive line and Drew in the backs for being able to pick up, you know, pressure or to be able to block.
Good for Michael Thomas. I think back to a June OTA where him and Marshawn Lattimore were competing like it was the practice before the Super Bowl. That's how hard this guy takes it. That's how much effort he gives in a June practice where he was coming off of the best season of his young career, had an even better season this year. He deserves everything he gets because of the work he puts in. Deuce, you said it perfectly, because I mean, it's not just in the game where he works as hard. It's in practice as well.
All right, play number 5. High priority going forward. Health. They lost 3 offensive linemen. Then you have Rankins, Okafor, Pete all go down in the first quarter. Health is a key issue with this team going forward.
They will go as far as their health allows them to go. I mean, if they are healthy and they have, you know, most of those starters back, offensive line and obviously D-line, I think they're going to be okay. But they're going to go as far as their health allows them to go.
To me, it's an underrated part of the comparison to the 09 team is just how, knock on wood, healthy they've been. They've dodged some bullets yesterday with obviously Sheldon Rankins and Alex Okafor. I think Andrew Speed will end up being okay. But back in 09, the only 2 opening day starters that were not available in the playoffs, Charles Grant and Heath Evans. So that's a lot when you talk about the way the game of football is played. So right now they look good health-wise. Stay that way. Stay that way health-wise. We'll see what happens with Teron Armstead. To me, that's the biggest worry. But hopefully, if you stay healthy, you'll have a chance to make a run through the postseason.
We're hoping we see Teron Armstead in these playoffs sometime. We'll see going forward. All right, coming up, Sean will break down the film on Teddy Bridgewater's game. See the good, the bad, and we're hearing there's some ugly as well. That's next.
You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the 2018 Nissan Titan.
Welcome back in. So one of the players to watch yesterday was Teddy Bridgewater, the quarterback, and how he'd play in his first start since 2015. Sean, how did he do?
Well, let's take a look. All eyes were on Teddy Bridgewater in his first start in nearly 3 seasons Sunday, and overall, it was a mixed bag. Bridgewater threw 22 passes. I went back and looked at each one and saw some good decisions and some poor ones. I broke down 2 of each in my film study.
We'll begin with one of his best throws of the game. The Saints are in their 2 tight end set. Bridgewater is under center. Dan Arnold is running a hook and out. Michael Thomas will run a comeback, and Ben Watson will run a drag to his left. On the play, he fakes the handoff to Mark Ingram and rolls hard to his left, squares up his shoulders, and throws the deepest route in the progression to Watson for an 18-yard gain. Later in the game, the Saints are in their empty set with 11 personnel, with Bridgewater in the shotgun. He takes the snap and looks towards the middle of the field. When he doesn't see an open receiver, he goes through his progression, but realizes he has ample protection. So he stays in the pocket, looks to his left, and fires a strike to Traquan Smith. The throw had some heat, answering any questions about arm strength. But there were some bad decisions. His first came early in the game on 4th down. Michael Thomas and Smith are lined up in a stack formation with Thomas behind Smith. Thomas will then run a slant behind Smith, while Smith will run a fade to the corner of the end zone. This should have been an easy completion. Watch Thomas. He pops wide open on the slant. but Bridgewater doesn't see it and drifts back and throws an incompletion to Smith. And finally, his interception was just a bad decision all the way around. The Saints are in their heavy two tight end set with Bridgewater under center. He fakes the handoff, then stares down Ben Watson the entire way, who's running an over route. The throw is late, and Colin Jones undercuts it for the pick. But watching it from the backside, it's clear Watson was triple covered and should not have gotten the pass. No one else is really open. Thus, Bridgewater should have either tucked it and ran with it or simply threw it away.
All right, now one thing that jumped out right away was just how much the entire offense runs through Drew Brees' sense of timing and precision. And when someone new is in there, that timing is tough to replicate. You saw that a few times. But I think overall, as we said earlier, physically, Bridgewater held up. He's got his physical traits. It felt like it was a matter of just time on task with that offense. And obviously the offensive line, the makeshift offensive line, didn't help either.
Well, that's where you talk about having the reps. That's where you talk about getting the reps week in and week out and, really tweaking that offense a little bit as far as, things that he likes to do, things that you feel comfortable with him running. I mean, this was the offense really, tailored for Drew Brees. If Teddy is going to be a quarterback going forward, you would just continue to tweak it. But, I mean, this is his first true action in 3 years as a starter.
All right, coming up, what are the chances of the Saints re-signing Teddy Bridgewater this offseason now that they've seen him in game action? We're going to answer your questions. That's next. Hot 10.
By your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the 2018 Nissan Titan.
Welcome back in. Time to get to some questions because they've been waiting all night to answer your questions submitted on the Final Play app using the Final Word feature. And this first question comes from Cheryl Orgeron in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Round your way, huh?
Oh, yeah. Home of Fast Freddy.
There you go. How realistic are the chances that Teddy Bridgewater remains with the Saints going into the 2019-2020 season?
I'm going to go 50-50 here because we don't know what's going to happen with Drew. He's obviously under contract for next year. We don't know if he comes back. Teddy Bridgewater is gone. But if let's just say Brees will retire, then all of a sudden the Saints would need a quarterback. But other teams also need a quarterback. And then all of a sudden it's the most expensive position in football that drives the price for his services up. So in that case, do you have to franchise Teddy Bridgewater? I don't know. So right now I'm thinking 50-50 Teddy Bridgewater is back with the Saints next year.
I agree, probably 50-50 in a sense. There is still an outside chance that Teddy comes back and Drew does come back as well. That's when you really know he likes New Orleans because he is going to get some offers from some other teams. And so for him, it's going to be a comfort level. And then, what true teams throw the Brinks trucks to him. They offer the bank to him because he is a starting caliber quarterback.
Somebody will.
Yes.
Jacksonville, Denver.
All it takes is one. All it takes is one team. But, I mean, it's going to be a fit for him as well. Does he like New Orleans enough to stay for another year if Brees does decide to come back?
Our next question comes from Tina over in Lakeview. She said, what scares me the most is the Saints secondary getting beat on long passes along with penalties. How difficult is it to turn your head on a play to avoid a DPI? She's talking about Eli Apple, and that's one of the things he seems to get caught with every week.
It's hard. I mean, you have to be able to feel the receiver, but also understand and watch his eyes, watch his hands to be able to turn your head. And in college, that's not a penalty. And, when Eli is locked in, he's not going to get that play. He turns his head, he finds the ball. That's the biggest thing. I mean, but, at times he gets lazy with his technique, and, you want to grab a little bit, you want to tug, but it's not as easy as it sounds when you're talking about locating the football, having a feel for the defender, and still being able to run at the same time.
Look, she's right. It's an issue. He's done it a lot. But you take the good with the bad. It's just part of his game, and you just got to take that with him. I know he can certainly improve on that, and you want to be better, but right now it just kind of is what it is at the stage of the season.
He has been an improvement on that side. All right, coming up, the Saints will host a divisional round game for the first time since January of 2010. What's the best matchup between the Cowboys, Seahawks, and Eagles? We'll preview the possibilities next.
Ford dealers and the 2018 Nissan Titan.
Going down the home stretch here on the show, all eyes will be glued to the TV sets this weekend with the wild card games kicking off. Here's the schedule. The Bears will host the Eagles, while the Cowboys will battle the Seahawks in Darlington, Texas. The Saints will face the lowest seeded team still alive. So it'll either be the Cowboys, the Seahawks, or the Eagles? Give me the team you would like to play first.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I think the Saints have a little bit of revenge on their mind. I don't think they would play nearly as poorly as they did when they faced them in Dallas. It was a little bit of a desperate team back then. Dallas I'm talking about. Now everybody's desperate. It's the playoffs. I think they match up better. But we're going to stay with that right now because the team I don't want to see is the Seattle Seahawks, because I think Russell Wilson is capable of taking over a game.
I agree with you, not wanting to see Seattle. I think Russell Wilson is the difference maker there. You know, he is able to create not only with his arm but his legs to be able to just stretch plays almost like a backyard figure. And I think it's going to be the Eagles who they actually host and see. I think the Eagles will beat the Bears. It's going to be a really interesting game, an intriguing game where defenses will, you know, almost cancel each other out, and it's the quarterbacks. And Foles, obviously with the experience winning last year, he's going to get the nudge over Mitch Trubisky, even in Chicago.
That's an interesting matchup there. I like to see them play Dallas again because I believe there's a little revenge on the Saints' minds. And as you said, that stuff goes out the window as soon as the ball is snapped. But you know what? It's time for us to get going here. For Deuce and Sean and everyone here at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. Thanks for watching. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night and Happy New Year.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight, and the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.